Welcome, everybody, to the Jake Rouse Show. I am excited to have my friend Chris Sirianni here. Chris, good to have you here.
Pleasure.
I was thinking the other day, for those who don't know Chris, and I know you had a life before Brewerie,
Yeah.
but so many people got to know you through the Brewerie. I was thinking of this, and I want to pay you a high compliment. You know, there's folks that got into downtown Erie and have stayed there and made a difference for an extended period of time. And the two that jump out at me, if they were still in business, I'd bring up the owners of the Puffer Belly. But if you go back in time, it was the Haggertys, obviously, at the Plymouth, and it was Jay and Marcy Honard at Calamari's. And I don't know of anybody else. I mean, you were, when you established Brewerie and came into the downtown. I mean, how many years were you in downtown, and what year was it when you started?
You nailed it for the folks that were on top of this thing early on and investing and doing great things. And those aforementioned were part of the reason we wanted to be downtown. I'll throw right before us, too, were the Richardsons and the Litzes at Juniors.
That's right. Yes.
They were kind of like, all right, Mayor Filippi at the time, were very focused on that was going to be our entertainment district and arts district. And you still see it with Paca and Keller's being juniors now. And we're like, all right, like there's a vision. There's something that we want to be a part of. And you had a guy like Jim Berlin who was shopping for his headquarters and doing big things at Logistics Plus. Right before us, ends up buying Union Station. And, commits to a major investment to that area. We're like, all right, it's coming. It's coming. I don't know how long it's going to take, but it's coming. So same with the Mercantile Building down there. There was a vision for that. I never really came to fruition over a decade later.
That one had some financial flaws, which we could talk about.
But no, you could see it coming.
Were you in Union Station before Jim bought it?
So this is funny. This is why I believe in networking, especially in a town like ours. I just known Jim Berlin from a lunch network, and we'd exchange cards. He was looking for a place downtown. Just got into Union Station in about 2005. We had spent 2001 to 2006 looking for a home. I did a 5-year field work and research just on like where a good spot for a brewery would be. Just searching the region. If we had a chance to take a road trip, we would drive to Cleveland, D.C., Buffalo, and everywhere in between just to try to find what a good setup, good areas.
Can I just pause you for 1 second?
Yeah.
2001. That was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
Doesn't that blow your mind?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So you were looking in a 100-mile radius.
Yeah, and we travel. I went all over the country. If I had a reason to get in a car and go visit a brewery, because they were popping up everywhere but here. Pittsburgh had a couple, Cleveland had a couple. Talking the Great Lakes of the worlds and the Penn Brewing in Pittsburgh. There were a few, but not a lot. So I spent my summer. Actually, it started in 2000. I interned with Erie Brewing Company, and I said, this is a great thing. The thing about brewing back then, it's hard to imagine, but a brewery in Pennsylvania, you couldn't go to a brewery and buy beer. A brewery made beer and shipped it out. So we were looking at the model where you went to a brewery and actually bought and drank beer
that was produced there.
Yes, and that it sounds archaic
today. It's a different
category,
though, isn't it? Is that a brew pub?
Yeah. Well, there really were no brew. There were I think three brew pubs in the entire state.
Okay.
But most were breweries, the Iron Cities of the world and things
let's
like that.
Let's step back there because Erie Brewing was in existence.
Sure.
And Erie Brewing was out on 12th Street?
So, 12th and Visheko.
Yes.
They had been there a few years. Now, if we really want to go back, the origin of them was Union Station as hoppers.
Wow.
So they were there in 94, had a pretty short run, and I think they decided, like a lot of breweries decide, like the restaurant's a whole nother beast and a challenge. I think they outgrew it. They had Matt Anthony's Ale, which you might remember from the days at the ballpark. Rocket Man would go around when at the stadium and pour, but they put Matt Anthony's on the map.
I remember that guy. I bought a beer off him.
It was super cool concept. Absolutely loved it. I'm like, man, this is fascinating. Craft beer out of a basically a backpack off a guy going to your seat.
Yep.
It was outstanding. And then Railbender came after that, but they needed actually production space, not a little brew pub.
Who was the creator behind it?
It was an investment group.
That's right. And there were 1,000 investors.
Yes, and probably that might have been part of the problem, but they did a great job over on 12th and Visheko. I think they had their ups and downs. They were in the game way early.
They were in the game way early, and folks, just so I'm clear, when I say they had thousands of investors, it means that there were probably a solid dozen, maybe 2 dozen individuals who put money into that business and had a share of it.
Yes.
Most of them silent.
Yeah.
They had an ownership interest. They saw and understood where craft beer was going, and they had, between Bad Anthony and Railbender, they had really good. So who was their brewmaster?
Yeah.
Who was their wizard?
Yeah. They had great liquid, for sure. And again, there was ownership. There's a couple guys. There's Brian Hollingsworth, I believe, was the guy early on. Now he went, he defected and got a job out at. Ultimately, I think he had at Victory Brewing, which is one of the big boys. He was out, but he was so far out ahead of all this of the brewing industry and just making really really good liquid. So he defected, and then ultimately I met a group of guys there when I spent a summer interning, doing marketing, and saw it as a good product. But again, you could go out there and you couldn't even buy a case of beer. So in my mind, I'm like, hey, there was a model in Pittsburgh called Penn Brewery, which opened up in right around like 1980, early 80s, 84 maybe. 82, and it was, hey, there's a brewery, but they also attached a brew pub. So that was part of our plan, and as we're working on this, one thing led to another. But I went, I was looking for space around town and building this business plan. I had a lunch with at actually Kiwanis meeting at the Manor Corps, and Jim Berlin was the speaker, and I introduced myself after the meeting. We exchanged cards. And didn't think much of it, but I said, hey, I'm excited. Union Station, I'm a fan. I actually had my parents threw a 21st birthday for me there, which is ironic.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
7 years before we got in the building. So I was just in love with the history, in love with what Erie and the administration had, envisioned for this area. So, we're out there looking. I'll never forget, I was at a trade show out of town. It was near Chicago. And it was March 18th, 2006. So coming up on 20 years on the nose. I get a call from Jim Berlin. He's like, hey, it's Jim from, Logistics Plus. We met. Are you still looking for a place for that brew pub? And I go, yeah, sure am. And actually, we have a building right next to you, the Turnpike building we got purchased.
Is that the triangular building?
Yes. Great history, great bones to it. We could do a whole entire show just about that property. The background of that building is unbelievable. But
who owns that building now? Is it Jeremy?
Sold that, yeah. We sold that to Jeremy several years after we decided to scrap that project. Ultimately, what we learned sitting on that property is that it was just going to be, it would have been great to open up. In 5 years, we'd outgrown it. Mm-hmm. And there's no room to expand. There's railroad
of research that you're doing here, and thoughtful research is really on point.
One of the biggest things we learned when we're out meeting with other brewers and owners is that you're going to need space to grow for production. If not for your restaurant or the bar, the production. And we had it exactly the size we wanted it, and they said, look, you're going to fall and you can't afford to move. The infrastructure you're going to build to brew beer, it's going to be cost prohibitive to ever move. So we're kind of sitting on that property, and but absolutely loved it. The first brewery, actually I take it back. The last brewery, let's go back. The first and last brewery was on that property. Major David McNair built that right after the War of 1812. He had all these shipmen and shipbuilders.
That would be the first.
Yes, and they ultimately they end up being the last leading up to Prohibition.
Oh, okay.
So that was a conversation. So and that was also Erie's main spillway and artery into downtown. That came all the way from Waterford and from Waterford to Pittsburgh. That was Turnpike Street. So it's still called, a lot of people in town call it the Turnpike Building.
Yep.
But yeah, from the first brewery to the first grist house was there. The last murder of a local by a Native American was on that spot. The bones are supposedly still in that property
Whoa,
somewhere.
that's far
It's
out.
rich. Rutledge was the guy's name that was murdered. Him and his son were scalped there. Crazy. So anyway, we're digging up all the stories on this lot.
It's
Ready
hard
to
to
go.
believe that's like the edge of town, if you will.
Yes, that
is
was it.
14th Street.
That was our little Times Square. That's
Wow.
where everything just joined and came. And fun fact too, and we keep getting off here, but fun fact about that.
Wait a second. So when was that? When was the
this
murder?
It was in
Native
the
American.
It was in the 1800s. I forgive me for not knowing
Still,
the date.
I mean, it's.
I used to tell the story every day. No, I don't have to do it anymore, so
That's
I forget
pretty
the date.
wild. Anyway, so you have the turnpike. Did you have an option on the turnpike building?
So we purchased at a great price and decided to. My folks were involved in that because I was just out of school.
Yeah, I was going to say. So your age right now at this time?
I was 22 in 2001. So just
so it's
doing out the legwork.
2006. So it's 5 years.
5 years of and we got the plan, and throughout that got the building. But anyway, I get this call on March 18th from Jim Berlin and says,
Day after St. Patrick's Day.
it was a day after St. Patrick's Day. I'll never forget it. And he goes, "Hey, look, the bank just locked up the current tenant, which was Porter's, which is fine dining, and it was I think their second trip through bankruptcy. They would try to reorganize, didn't work out, and as luck may have it for us, they shut him down. And he said, I need someone in here. Are you still interested?" So we actually cut our trip a couple days short. Came home early just to walk through it. So the next day, March 19th, we walk through, and he's like, "Do you want this?" He's like, "I'd love to work with you." And I'm like, and I am 27, I think at the time.
What were you doing for income at the time?
I managed Beer and Pop Warehouse,
Yep.
which we'll get to, Peninsula Drive. That's where I grew up. My dad had opened that in 1986, and that's how I cut my teeth on that industry. So, and then spent a lot of time working, going to visiting, helping out, volunteering at different beer events throughout, and that's how I kind of made the network. So Berlin tossed it at me, and I in hindsight, I thought it probably crazy, like
Of
at that
course it
age to
was.
roll the dice. And he said,
So what better time to roll the dice?
Right. Young, dumb, and full of and bright-eyed and
Bushy-tailed,
ready,
right.
yeah. So now I probably would have been absolutely not at this age. But I said, look, I go, this is a lot. Like, we had a little, 5,000 square foot place, and now we're looking at 25,000 square foot. And also, by the way, it's a little intimidating because it's one of Erie's landmarks. Everything had kind of not failed there to some extent. In Midtown, they weren't ready. The development wasn't there. Out front, there were still empty warehouses. The park was sketchy as sketchy gets. The park was mostly a parking lot.
Yeah.
Home was just bad. At any rate, Jim said, "Look," he's like, "this is a partnership, and I'm not gonna let it fail. It's like I need you here as much as you."
Jim's fantastic
Yes.
that way.
So the way he pitched it, and he said, "We're gonna help you along with whatever you need." So that guy, I'm telling you, he if we needed it, he did it. He had his team, which was growing. I think might have been 40 people. Now it's probably 300
At least.
yeah, just right around here between Union Station and the Times building. So he would have happy hours. He'd buy his team lunch, like everything to kind of get us up and go and get bodies there, because it was not the place you wanted to come at night down there.
So you're not just producing beer.
Yes.
You are producing beer, which is in and of itself a singular business with its own challenges, which
Right.
involves unique pieces of equipment. It also involves unique ingredients that you have to get in, and it requires a specific talent to manage that. And then you add to it a restaurant, which is different levels. Yes, it's kitchen equipment, but it's industrial kitchen equipment, plus it's chefs and it's staff. So you really jumped into the deep end.
Yeah, it was, and I had no experience on the restaurant side. I kind of knew working with bars. I had buddies in bars.
Sure, you've eaten at restaurants.
I've eaten, yeah. So I could cook at home is the other thing.
Right,
That's
yeah.
everybody's thing. I cook a great meal at home.
Yeah.
That means nothing. That means absolutely nothing. Brewed out of a bucket and interned at a brewery for a summer. But I thought, you know what? Like, I saw other people opening places elsewhere that probably had less experience or drive or even desire to be in it. So we said, you know what, let's roll the dice. And Jim was kind of like our, I don't say our lucky charm, but he's our biggest supporter.
Oh, you don't make it if you don't have someone there. First of all, he's a landlord that's going to be sympathetic if you're, hey, it's a rough month.
Yes, he was. And I can talk about COVID later, but I wouldn't have made it through that either without him. But out of the gate, like he was our rock. So yeah, the risk was enormous. Nobody really wants to fund a startup restaurant. And it was getting exorbitant. So it worked out. There was already the infrastructure there. We had to rebuild the kitchen and put a brewery in, but it was less. Yeah, we bought
just rebuild a kitchen and put a brewery in.
Yeah, that's right. Luckily, we got lucky in bankruptcy and some used equipment, refurbishing the kitchen, the bar. The brewery was very expensive, but we rolled the dice, bought some used stuff. From a place in Ohio, and had to buy some new stuff too. But I mean, learning, there was no blueprint. Right now, Lake Erie Ale Trail is something we started up in 2015, so they just got to their 10-year anniversary. But that's an organization, a nonprofit that we created to help market and help, honestly, like create more breweries. It's a good network to learn to learn the ropes, to just figure out the do's and don'ts. And I learned that, but I had to go seek it in other communities. So that community group, outside supporting each other's businesses, like part of the unwritten mission is to help them grow, because there was no blueprint or playbook when we started, which made it very hard.
Well, 100% it did. But one of the things that I have observed here in Erie and elsewhere, because as being a fan of craft brewing, and we can talk about the whole Tap into Erie initiative, which we were targeting craft brewers for their western expansion, and I think it's worthy of talking about in this context. But one of the things that I really loved about not the brewery story and you is the camaraderie you have with other brewers in town, the respect you have for the beer that they make, and the role that you've played in helping them get launched before the ale trail came around.
Sure.
Because if I'm not mistaken, both Jason Lavery, Jeff McClure, I'm sure there's others that you've helped. You've provided them with space, saying, "Hey, take a swing here. Use my space to get started." Is that accurate or inaccurate?
That's pretty accurate. Yeah. That was something I knew the lumps we had to take, and almost not making it out of the gate. It took us, I think, 6 months to get a license, which we would have been ready much sooner. But just the hoops back then to jump through, and not knowing, again, flying blind, we could have probably been out of business before we ever opened our doors up. That's how the mess we kind of got into early. So one thing, Erie Brewing, because I'd spent time and knew the ownership, knew the brewer over there, they said, hey, we couldn't get our doors open fast enough. And then what happens is, if we can't make beer a month or 2 months ahead, you can't open. So we're trying to time all this out, get the equipment in, make the product, have it ready for an opening, which we don't know it's going to be. Is it going to be tomorrow? Is it going to be 3 months? So
I'm getting stressed just as you're talking about it.
It was a lot. It's not like a bakery. Like, we could bake today and open tomorrow. So Erie Brewing said, hey, why don't we do this? Why don't you brew your first 2 batches here, and we'll sell it to you, sell it and ship it over to you. So that's what we did. We brewed our first Uncle Jackson's Blonde, and Major McNair, not Brown, who was Erie's first brewer, right next to us in the building we wanted to be in. Mm-hmm. We made those beers. And then we brought on, as part of that, we're like, well, we'll carry a bunch of your products. That was also part of our mission. So much great beer around the state was popping up, and we wanted to feature local craft beer, regional craft beer, local wines, spirits, if we could pull them in from Philly or Pittsburgh or wherever. But that was part of our thing. Like, you couldn't go out. You could go downtown and get a Killian's at the time, or a Honey Brown. Those were maybe popular craft beers or pseudo craft beers that were from the region, but you couldn't get. It was hard to find a Railbender some places.
Yeah, I think right. And I think we have to remind people, this is 2006.
Oh, my Lord.
This is 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Now the craft, now you're seeing a mature industry that's everywhere, and every place you travel, there's a local beer that you can try.
Yeah.
But this is at the beginning of that wave.
Yeah, if you're listening and you want, probably I'd say if you're under 45, maybe you probably don't remember like the Shaggy Dog or Oscars, but those are pretty much your two.
That's right.
Those were your
Oscars,
two spots you could go and
Shaggy
get.
Dog, the only reason I was there thousands of times, but I vaguely remember it because, it was one of those places that you didn't go there for the ambiance.
No, but they had a great craft beer list, and there wasn't a lot of places you could go find.
It did. I forgot about Oscars. Oscars Pub, which is now a gym, I think, right? Isn't it at the Level Red or one of the...
Yeah, right there. It's part between that and Tires for Less there.
Yep.
So, but those are places I love to go. But again, like you might find a rail bender at one of those places, but most places
there was also from a distributorship. Was it Edinburgh Beer? Edinburgh Beer used to distribute a lot of craft before the others got involved.
Sure, Edinburgh and Burt Seaside Beer, which is
that's right. Burt Seaside.
I think the highway, the connector went through that area. But yeah, it was so hard to get, and if you're lucky enough to find one like a distributor that had it, you had to buy a whole case. So you're spending $20 to $30, which was a ton of money.
It sure was.
Risking on something you've probably never had before. So it was just a different world. But back to the ale ale trail.
The brewery, Erie Brewing produces your
So
first batches.
Yeah.
The recipes for those, are those yours? Were those
yours?
yours?
Yeah, we created them.
When you say we, who?
So
is it?
One of their former brewers was one of our early partners. Gary Burley, I met at Erie Brewing, and he came on board with us. I needed someone. I brewed out of a bucket, and that's about all I knew. My time at Erie Brewing was mostly spent in sales, marketing, and events. So I knew a little bit, but as far as making, same thing as cooking. As far as cooking or making anything for a large scale beyond what I served in my house, it was a stretch. So he came on, spent the first few years with us, and but throughout that, one of the projects we wanted to do, home brewing was also like kind of gaining steam. So we started this event called the Brewers Cup, and it was just a Saturday in February. It started with like a homebrew club we had at the pub, and we would meet. And I think the first time like 6 guys showed up on a Saturday to sample beer to each other. And I think by the next year it was probably like 18 or 20 homebrewers would show up. And the second year, it was jam-packed.
That is
cool. It
cool.
was insane.
You mean as far as guests, people going there to pay a fee and sample beer?
Yeah, I
and
think we
might
have charged like something silly. It was like $2 to come and cover your glass. You know what I mean? So, it went from a bunch of guys sitting around on a Saturday. The next year, it was nuts. Jason Lavery was one of the first guys on board with that, and he won one of the awards for one of his porters he did. So that was our second one. Fast forward 10 years later, in our 10th one, Jeff McCullough and Steve Anthony had gone through there as a home brewer placed. The guys done at Timber Creek did the same. Tom Morris out at Black Monk did the same. And the actual, bless you,
excuse me,
the current, bless.
Okay. Sorry about that. So, wow.
No problem.
They all participated in the
as homebrewers, and kind of just cut their teeth, got a lot of feedback. Spent a lot of time with those guys over the years, and when it came time, whether it's Jason Lavery was one of the first ones, and that we actually had in to brew, and then all of a sudden we're leasing tank space to him.
That's cool.
And he started bottling out of there. So one thing led to another, and it just kind of turned into like, hey, we're here as an unofficial consultant, or whatever you need for that blueprint that we were always begging for. So it started with just Erie Brewing letting us make a batch of beer there. And I felt they never told us, but I felt obligated. I'm like, you got to pay us forward to somebody. So still doing it to this day. And the guy, ironically, full circle, the guy brewing over there right now, for the new owner, Tate Warren, super good guy. He also, his first go at it was at the Brewers Cup probably 15 years ago.
That's so cool.
So yeah.
Well, I mean, just the beyond just bringing an established entity to downtown Erie, you should be very proud of that. Like, it's a well-known, brewery is an anchor in the downtown, in an important area of downtown. And you were with Jim at the early stages of going in there and making a hell of a difference in that area, along with the folks at Juniors. Again, visionary.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then Andy Cicini buys the post office and puts dollars in there. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, you mentioned two of the guys committed to that square.
And now across the way, Pete Zaffris is buying property. And he's going to be, he took the Metropolitan, and he's going to be modernizing that. It really is a cool, hip area. One of the losses from that area that I would love to see that restaurant today is Paper Moon.
Yes.
Paper Moon was around when you started.
Yes.
And then it closed. But for folks who weren't around or don't remember, but Paper Moon was the first restaurant in Erie, if I'm not mistaken, that had a sushi chef.
Yes. Yeah.
And so a lot of people were getting sushi, in downtown Erie at a restaurant, and they had a great menu. They had a lot of good stuff, great, and just good people running that operation.
Yeah, they were ahead of their time a little bit for both the menu, just the local art.
Yes, that's right.
They consignment art up. It was just a super, super cool place. And we saw it. We said, hey, man, you got a comedy club, a place like that. You got the absolute, I would say, the anchor for the neighborhood with Calamaris. It was the right time. And Jim had done more for that building and that block than I can even mention. Andy Cicini was great. We were happy he got Griswold. He's done incredible work.
He filled it up with tenants, which drives traffic to your business, but it also just kind of now you've got some critical strengths. So then when you say to the city and others, hey, we need some improvements made to this area, they start to take it more seriously because there's not only people employed, but a lot of people going to work there and recreating or being entertained in that area.
Yes. And then, Pete Zaffris, you already seen what he's done on 12th Street. He brings out the 13th. A lot of us have seen the plans. It's remarkable, and I think glad I'm in a spot where we left the business, sold the business in a good place. But I would love to been a part to see what's next right there, because it's going to be an incredible area.
If I had a magic wand, there's a couple blocks in Erie that I would love to redo because I think they would transform downtown Erie. But one of them's right in the middle of that, which is where that state Social Security building is. Mm-hmm. If you take that office out of there and either raise that building, but you could put something that had first floor, maybe commercial, and upper floor residential. I think that would be a super hot spot for that kind of activity.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. I'm not so sure it hasn't been discussed. But
I'm sure it has.
Yeah, I don't have any legs.
Wrong. It's not a cheap date,
right.
But there's just that there's kind of a dead zone in the middle of all of that, and you need to connect it somehow. In those townhomes that were put on there between 13th and 12th, they were ahead of their time.
Way ahead. Yeah.
Way ahead of their time, and I think they would hope that. But I just think there's a dead zone there, and you see it. And I'm not suggesting I have it all figured out, but definitely, because it's a risk. There's no question.
Yes.
But if you get a residential aspect, what the EDDC has proven is putting quality market rate housing in downtown Erie has been very successful.
Yes.
People are looking for that, and they will fill it up, and they'll pay the rents needed to fill it up, which really changes the dynamic of that area there.
Yeah. Patience is From your background, patience is huge. What we're seeing now come to fruition there is stuff we saw in the early 2000s. I mean, it's 20, 25 years later, and the vision's finally, it's all fallen into place. But not everybody has the kind of patience or wherewithal or.
No, 20 years, it's a long time.
Yeah.
It's happening when candidly the economics, the market demographics of the Erie market have not materially changed from them. If anything, the economics of our economy have been flat, which means you're going backwards.
Right.
But we've lost some population. Household incomes has not kept pace with where it should be at the state and federal level. And yet you see the improvements that have been made. And, I'd be interested in your thoughts on this because you do travel a lot. We can get it. We'll talk at some point about your love of music and going to concerts with your wife and friends. But one of the things that I believe about downtown Erie is the entertainment center for the region.
Sure.
And a lot of places try to create what we have here. And so Erie folks just take it for granted. That in the core of our downtown is our arena, a AA ballpark, a 100-plus-year-old theater, a playhouse. The Philharmonic performs there. You have Gannon's Highmark Center, which has entertainment activities at it, and you have cultural critical mass, entertainment critical mass in a concentrated area, and you're not just going to move that. It's not going to unplug and go somewhere. Right. And so many nights, obviously Sunday can be a dead zone in downtown.
Oh, yes.
But Saturday afternoons, Saturday evenings, during the week here, we have traffic in our downtown, and you can go to similar-sized communities, go to their same-sized community, go to their core, their central business district, their urbanized area, and see what kind of activity they have. And you'll realize what we have here that you can build off of is that would cost you $500 million to establish that. We have it in place already.
Yes, it's there, and you can see it. We do, we've talked about that all the time, and to his credit, Gus Pine, I think, has knocked it out of the park. Casey did a good job building the vehicles, which is the centers from the Civic Center, Erie Insurance Arena, the Bayfront, the Warner's. I think they knocked it out of the park with all the renovations and the space that I think half the people that go to Warner don't even know exists on the east side of the building. And in the north end of the building, we go to quite a bit of events. It is all there. And as a business owner, we knew how important that was to get traffic downtown after 5 o'clock, basically Monday through Thursday. And then, an event downtown on a Sunday. We didn't open on Sundays because I'd sit in the office at Union Station on a Sunday, and you could probably lay in the middle of the road on State Street on most Sundays if there wasn't an event. So, booking Sunday events, whether it's a concert or a Seawolves game or an Otters matinee or something like that, so important to food, beverage, hospitality downtown. But no, we have it there between, and there's obviously a disconnect from the Bayfront and our sports and events complexes. But no, it's there. Most places would probably, give their left arm. Most cities would give it up to have it. Or that's what they're trying to do. There's a little bit of urban flight going on in other cities. You see it's going to happen in Cleveland with moving the football stadium and getting out where you can develop more. But I think we have what we need. The one thing, if I can wave my wand after you wave yours, I think they do definitely have to work on a little bit more of a food and beverage scene around the arena. That's one thing we've noticed. When we got downtown in 2006, you could walk State Street and every block would have a bar.
Yeah.
It's kind of definitely thinned out. There are less licenses on State Street than there were probably in the last 30 or 40 years. Still some great places to eat, but there's not a row necessarily where, there's I think 3 restaurants within a block of the arena. But knowing those owners, they, you can't handle that influx an hour before a show. And you have to walk. You have to walk. Where a lot of places, arenas, and a lot of the reasons I think these arenas are leaving big cities is so you can develop shopping, food and beverage right adjacent to an arena. So
that's part of it. And the other is a lot of times when you get into the bigger billion-dollar owner franchises, they're finding parcels of land where there can be basically a kind of a legacy lifestyle village situation where the anchor is the stadium, but around it is going to be apartments. It's going to be some retail. It's going to be restaurants, and it's going to be really like you want to live there, and then you want to have an office there, so your employees can live in that area, and it becomes a multi-billion-dollar development instead of just the stadium.
Yeah, luckily I don't think we have to worry about a $3 billion sports franchise
We
coming in
don't.
at any time. But thank goodness, I say it all the time, like Erie Insurance, what they've done to develop that area,
Remarkable.
the streetscaping, the lighting,
It's
the
remarkable,
buildings.
but
Yeah.
and the streetscaping that the city did, really going down State Street,
Yes.
and it is so long overdue. Kudos to them. It's a big, we have done a great job in downtown Erie of having my office for years in downtown Erie and the businesses downtown of enduring what I call the price of progress, which is cranes and
Yep.
and shut down streets and torn up roads and lots of cones. But when you start to aggregate up all the investments, and it has not solved all the problems, but we are radically ahead of where similar places we're radically ahead of other areas, because when you start to look at the investments that have been made, I think, yeah, I'm a cheerleader for downtown, but Erie Insurance probably $300 million into their campus. That's a fair number, right? Between the new building combined with the renovations. UPMC, 100+ million. Gannon, in aggregate over the last, since you've been there, over 100 million easily, buying buildings, improving them. What Mr. Hagan's doing on
Unbelievable.
6th Street's amazing. Then you add into it, we have a $20 million children's museum.
Yeah.
I mean, it's spectacular
Yeah.
in downtown, combined with all the improvements made at the arena, the ballpark, the Warner. Then you add in what Pete did with Great Lakes Insurance Building, what Value Momentum did with the old, I think it was the Northwest Banks building, Northwest still in downtown. National Fuel improved their facility. The improvements that Andy at the old post office and Jim have made. I mean, there's just been millions and millions and millions of dollars put into our downtown, and there's still more that will be done. And now, I'm sorry, in the investments that Christian's making in the Renaissance Center and the number of businesses, he's bought a number of other structures in downtown to support kind of those he's displacing. So he bought the Palace building, he bought the Key Bank building, he bought the Gannon building. Actually, I don't know if all that's public consumption, but now it is. And so, so there's a lot of really good players and things, but there's still challenges in downtown Erie, right? Yeah. And there's a lot of good work and effort that's being done to support the homeless in the community. Yep. But homeless individuals are attracted to downtown living, right? And that's frankly, there's also social services in downtown that they rely on and that serve them well. And so, it's complicated. It's complicated as a business owner. You want your customers to have a wonderful experience, and if running into a homeless person who may be completely fine, but it just makes them uncomfortable, starts to affect their ability to come down. So it's a complicated issue that we have to have heart, but we also have to respect that folks have, like yourself, over the years, put your entire life on the line to bring a business to the downtown area, so you can have compassion, but at the same time, you've got a business to run.
Right. Yeah.
That was a lot. I apologize.
And no, it's a lot, and that's kind of the downer of it. But I think that I have great hope. I don't know Mrs. Devlin at all, but I think there's hope that maybe there's a different shift. One thing we saw with when we got in, Mayor Sinnott was in. They were pretty good. The homeless never bothered us. I would say up till about 5-6 years ago. They were there. They're in every city. I mean, it's something as old as time. I don't think you ever
The homeless folks I've interacted with have been very nice.
Yes. And we never had a problem. Non-aggressive.
Right.
If they ask for change or something, not a big deal. I think we saw the shift. We blame a lot of things on COVID, but this is 1,000% holds true with the lack of mental care and outlets. shelters, just the overall mental health and drug use we saw through COVID, and
Interesting.
it was unbelievable. And now I had a front row seat. My office overlooked the park, Griswold Park, and I could see it. There were, they didn't have places to go. They couldn't get help. And the aggression, the drug use, open drug use, not just drug use. It used to be, at least there was an effort to do it discreetly or away, but out in plain sight. That's where it became disturbing to us. Luckily, EDP was great. They got a team
Erie
together.
Downtown Partnership, folks.
Yeah. They saw it, got together. I know they did some work with the actual police department, the PD, and they created a team that would you hated calling the police for someone defecating on but you had to start doing it because it was every day. I'd end up spending the last few years a lot of time throughout the day. So I knew it was time to get out. I think there's a new vision in an administration now that will hopefully lay down the hammer, and you got to be empathetic and have hearts, but at the same time you got law and order. If you're breaking the law, it's got to be taken care of. And I think a lot of things were just broomed.
It's hard.
Yeah.
To sit there and think and I want to be expressly clear, I don't have a solution for it.
No.
Every urbanized area in America is trying to figure out what that solution is.
Yes.
The city of Erie at least is taking it's really the Erie Community Foundation and several other entities working together to kind of the chronic homeless and the families that are homeless and addressing that with the building. I think it's at 23rd and Sass, the old City of Erie admin building that they're going to be doing a project there. But, in talking to many of the folks that we've talked about already that interact with the homeless because they own a building downtown and they're there every day. Mm-hmm. Some of the folks don't want to go to a shelter. A number of the homeless folks are not interested. They might go there for a meal, but they kind of are nomads and they roam, and so you really are in this unique situation, to your point, where it's kind of well, just do this, and they'll if I was homeless, would I feel more comfortable wandering through a downtown urbanized area, or would I feel way more uncomfortable wandering through a neighborhood up at 28th and State?
Yeah.
Obviously, up there, everyone's like, oh, well, we can't have this person wandering our neighborhood, right? They formulate a bunch of conclusions and they call the police, and where can they go?
Yeah. No, there's a lot of problem solving to do. I would hope, and I know there were discussions, and it was all side discussions or the meetings that never really led anywhere, but, to try to centralize or localize some of these resources for health, wellness, sheltering, if you could centralize a little bit more, but for us as a business owner, it's tough. It's going to be a tough conversation. Someone's going to have to make some hard, probably unpopular decisions. So
yes.
But I think it gets made. There's a lot of hope, but yeah, you gotta. It's going to be. I'm saying it's impossible to beat homelessness, but it's got to start. I think with mental health and drug use.
And we have great social service agencies.
Yes.
Daria's been in the middle of this subject. She knows it extremely well. And I think that we're in as good a position based on the steps that we have taken to date to make the case for, the next step, which would be a bold, innovative approach to dealing with it. And we don't have all those, solutions right now, but it's important. It's important to talk about it openly. That's one of the things that I think part of why I'm interested in doing this podcast is that sometimes the discussion that needs to happen doesn't happen in the group setting. It happens afterwards, one-on-one. And what we have to do is take that, kind of honest, sometimes ugly, honest or candid conversation from that one-on-one and bring it to the bigger discussion. And I think out of that, it'll make some people uncomfortable. But over time, what you'll find is that everyone's perspective will be enhanced.
Yes.
And by enhancing their understanding of, well, this is why Chris feels that way. He's not an unfeeling, individual that doesn't care about the homeless issue. He has a business. He has employees. He has customers that come in, and he's advocating on behalf of the whole and kind of saying, look, I've got a lot of folks
Right.
that I need to be concerned about.
Yeah. Yeah. When you have teenage employees, particularly young ladies, who are walking out at night and afraid to get out, go to their car or get out of their car, that's an issue. That's beyond just the business. That goes well beyond that. So that was, and the same thing with, we're a family restaurant. You want to bring families downtown, you got to address it. I'll drop this one real quick because it was a very incredibly unpopular decision, but I'll never forget after Mayor Joe Sinnott left office, I saw him at an event, and I go, I've always wanted to tell you this, Joe. I go, probably the thing you took more heat for in your 12 years was moving the bus stops.
Right off of
that.
State.
Oh my Lord!
Yeah.
You would have thought it was the end of the world. And I go, it's the best thing you did, and everybody downtown. It actually had more coverage. The line gave more coverage to people on it. It just split the middle, went left and right. It got more coverage. But I go, it freed up storefronts. It freed up traffic. It got rid of bad hangouts and bad situations in front of businesses. And it looked aesthetically, it was great. So I know you took heat for it. I know people went nuts. But I'm telling you, someone that lives downtown and for, at that time it was probably 10 or 15 years. Tough move, made very, very unpopular, but man, it did a great thing for downtown.
Those are the steps that make a downtown work. They're steps that can make the downtown look better to the visitor as well as the citizen who's visiting the downtown, meaning a visitor from out of town. So making a vibrant urban central core is hundreds of action steps. Not all of them easy, and not all of them cheap. One of the things, and we'll move on because I do have a comment, but it's just at the press conference, the Quinn T building, which most people would never have seen, but it's over on 16th Street between French and German, between French and Parade, let's say. It's easier description. Parade's a better description. Anyways, it was a rubble building. The Erie County Redevelopment Authority acquired the building, then secured money to tear it down clean it up, and turn the site back into something productive. And I'll never forget that while Mayor Schember and County Executive Dahlkemper were addressing the crowd on this, they had a podium set up. 3 or 5 homeless people walked out of the building while the press conference was going on.
Yeah.
So, and that, so just to give folks some context here, that was a haven for about probably at least 25 to 35 homeless folks that lived in that. So when that building was cleaned out and cleared up, I mean, to say it was a building, it was rubble, but it had, catacombs, if you will. Those folks get displaced. So you clean a site up, but you create a challenge.
Oh, boy. We saw it regularly.
Yeah. So let's switch to kind of a combo. You mentioned Gus Pine. You mentioned Casey Wells.
Mm-hmm.
And, Casey, a longtime friend, and he kept going after it with that authority board to get those assets improved, and they really continued to be improved. And Gus is just building on everything that Casey has done. And one of the things that I've seen since Gus taken over, and I said this while Casey was in, I said, one of the hooks, one of the most important people in retaining talent here, young talent and attracting talent, I felt was Erie events, specifically the concerts that they bring in. Sure. And who can you bring in and how do you bring in? Because if you became known as, hey, there's a vibrant, cool, hip concert scene going on in Erie, not necessarily, you're still going to bring in the bigger acts to fill the arena, but if you can catch those upwardly trajectory national acts, get them in the Warner, you could really become, and I think that Gus is doing that. The more of those concerts and performances, comedians, whatever it might be, obviously we've always had the off-Broadway. I just feel that it isn't riskless, but it sure has a way of creating a vibe that Erie's got some stuff going on for both the residents that are here as well as folks looking to come here or who have signed on and came here and they're like, this place is cool. It's hip. What do you think?
Oh yeah, I'll tell you, as someone that I'll bet you once a month, my wife and I get in the car and just go to Cleveland, Buffalo, Pittsburgh. And I saw Gus over the summer, and we catch up, and we'd sat and talked when he took the job. As someone who travels to shows in college, that's what I did. I besides working at a beer distributor in college, I went to IUP, but one of my jobs was basically production for concerts and entertainment. So that was like my weekend thing. We'd book a show, bring it in, and learn how to actually everything from picking people up, doing hospitality at the airport, to green room, to roadieing, all that stuff. So very interesting, and I appreciate all that stuff. So when we go, I love it. I love the fact that people will get in a car and go destination, get in a car, drive an hour, 2 hours across the country to see a show. We see it as a business. We saw it, the importance in the people that will come in to catch a show, and the money they spend when they're here.
Sure.
That's
you
the biggest
spend it
part.
when you're out of town.
Oh,
and
dearly,
so do I.
dearly.
Right? So when somebody's coming, if you're going to a concert,
Yeah.
you're not going to be nickel and diming over a meal or over drinks. You're there to have a good time, getting a hotel room.
Yes, and it's remarkable. We went to I'm not even a fan, and I knew one song. We went to see Teddy Swims, a sold-out show, over summertime. And
Here in Erie.
I went, yes, and he was he was just hitting it, but I knew he did it. We had people reach out to us, of buddies in Cleveland, people from Toronto we sat next to, that came in to see this guy, and it was what Erie concerts and it should be, and I want to say it was a Monday night. It was a Monday night.
That's awesome.
And there's 8,000 people at the Civic Center from all over the place. Yeah, Clevelanders on the left and Toronto people on the right. And just a conversation we had. Like, yeah, you can't get this ticket. Now, a lot of it's foresight and booking for a guy like Gus to see it coming, that wave and the trajectory of a guy. And a lot of it's just dumb luck. One single makes it. You book it 6 months prior. And then in between, one single or two single make it, and all of a sudden you got something.
One of the things that I know, and maybe he told you this, is that he's definitely looking to be, if you will, co-promoter. Excuse me. So it's kind of like, hey, I'll share the risk, I'll share the gate, but I'm sharing the risk with you. And all of a sudden you get some folks coming in. But I do think that, and he probably has this. He obviously has the industry side of it, but having folks that are out there listening, it's like, hey, here's a list of who we're looking at, kind of engaging the public in that. Like, hey, what of these artists, any ones that you want to? Because when people start participating in the decision-making process, and that's extreme, but the idea is get their input, find out who they'd like to hear, bring them in, because it's an 8,000-seat arena. Yeah, that's one thing. But the Warner, you get the right act in the Warner.
Yeah.
And so you got to balance it out with, we are a place that will go and listen to the artist that has, maybe it's past their time, but they're still good and
Right.
they have name recognition.
Right.
But I do think that there's something about bringing in kind of the next wave talent. And frankly, Celebrate Erie used to bring in some fantastic talent.
Yeah.
Showing my age, the old Docksider used to bring in talent that they'd catch, going
Sure.
going from Cleveland to Buffalo or
Yes.
whatever. So a Tuesday night they'd stop
Yeah.
in here. But I just think when you get those, like a Teddy Swims, when you hit on that and you're bringing people in, now you're bringing people that probably would never have come to Erie except for that concert.
Correct.
And they are here and they get to see it and talk, share with others. So if you have another one, if you get a few of those going and people
Yeah.
are start looking and saying, what's happening in Erie? Let's travel and go. That's what I mean. It has this kind of this domino effect that's why I think it could be very valuable, because you never know if somebody in that audience is looking at a job at UPMC or at Gannon or at Erie Insurance
Right.
or at WebTech.
Yeah.
Or, I'm sorry. WebTech.
Yeah. And get them here. God forbid they make it here during the summertime.
Oh.
And it's hard not to fall in love with. But, yeah, you are 100% right. It is, unfortunately, all that the development they did to the Warner, the expansion, along with the Civic Center, all that was just about to peak when COVID came around.
I know.
Because they had some bangers lined up that, I mean, they opened up with Zach Brown, I think, in 2020 there. And then there's one thing, a Country Act, Florida Georgia Line, just they were packing that place. Elton John, I think, was there right around that time, too. Or might have been right before. But, the place is open, renovated. Both those places are just, gems. And then COVID hits. And that really changed the trajectory of tours for these guys because they were backlogged so far. And it just became tough to schedule, your A-listers. It still is, to be honest with you.
We talked about the restaurant bar industry. I mean, it used to be open till 2 a.m.
Oh, yeah. No.
Right? Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
It's so funny that people kind of go, really? Now there's maybe a handful of bars that stay open till 2. Every bar. Right? I mean, am I rewriting history? But it sure seemed like if you went to Eduardo's, they'd be open till 2. They still might be open till 2 now that I say that. But you know what I like your place, you're open probably till 2. Pandemic hits, that place is going to be shut up, and by 11 o'clock.
There are things that are irreversible. I think that came out of that pandemic, and I could go on and on about it. Some of them that I think happened naturally, some that happened because the restrictions and what the government told us we couldn't do, but it definitely reset. And not much is better. Looking back, there are some things I like as I grow older. I don't mind the bars aren't until 2 anymore, but I
don't
see,
either.
yeah, it doesn't affect me as much. But maybe not even the bars, but just trying to get someone with a kitchen open after 9 o'clock. That's one of the early things that we had to make a decision.
It was not a late dining place before the pandemic, and now it's gotten worse. Where it's kind of like, wow, if you try to go out and go into a restaurant at 8 o'clock, you're rolling the dice whether you're going to get food or not.
When we could reopen, it took the better part of a year and a half, almost 2 years before we kind of get a little normalcy back in there. We were bleeding to death at nighttime because people had scaled. The times have shifted when they wanted to be home. The world had changed because the growth of what you can do mobily, whether it was a meeting or just socializing on your phone, things shifted in that 2 years. And the biggest thing for us is stay out of politics as most as I can. But for us, we had to pay to get someone to show up to work. We had to pay a dishwasher $15 an hour to stand around at 9 o'clock at night, and had to pay a cook $20 an hour to drop fries at 9 o'clock at night. And it got to a point where you couldn't afford to have a kitchen staff unless you were doing a lot of volume. And there's still a couple that do it, but the labor cost now it's corrected a little bit. It's better, but at that point, you could have had a dishwasher for $8 or $9 an hour back then, and we were paying $15 to get someone to show up to wash dishes on a weekend.
Yeah.
But that people don't talk about that. That was one of the biggest things, that kitchens were bleeding money.
I give Gavin Moss credit for this at Altered State, starting live music outside 6 o'clock. That's stuck.
Yes.
That's stuck, and I got to be honest with you, I don't mind that.
I love it. I love it, man.
We're so old.
I love it.
Such old farts. You know what I mean? Because, boy, 6 o'clock, you could go out at 5, have a drink or two, music starts playing. You can stay as long as you like. If you're loving it, stay the whole time. Yeah. But if not, you could be home, you could be home by 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Yeah. The older I get, the more I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And the younger kids, I'll be honest, they're just not going out, the 20-somethings. There's a couple spots in town, but for the most part, it isn't. You don't have to go out to socialize anymore. And also, kids are drinking less. They're, for better or for worse, they're just, not out spending money after dark.
So you sold your business to a local person?
Yeah. So it's a crazy story, but Jessica Warren, who was a friend of mine, was looking to get into the industry. Coming off of COVID, a couple of years, they're just talking casually. When we would catch up, we had some meetings, and just doing what we'd always like to done, and just sitting people down. And I always say I could talk you into this or I could talk you out of it. Like, give me a half an hour and I can tell you why it's great and why if you don't love it and passionate about it, it's going to kill you. So, had a couple of those meetings with her and was working through it, and just, had a great relationship, an open relationship about, where this whole thing was going on her end. And I think she ran into some roadblocks along the way. She's build a great plan, due diligence on everything. Very sharp lady. And what happened was last July, so actually July 2024, I think she'd hit a roadblock, and she's on one hand. And my father, who was actually diagnosed with cancer that July. So I remember talking to her one day, found out about him, and then like the next time we sat down together, within days of all this going on, I sat with her at lunch over at Union Station, and I just threw it out to her in the universe. I go, hey, I know you're having a problem getting across the finish line. Is this something that would interest you? And she said, what? I go, this place. And she goes, why are you selling? I'm like, I'm just asking if this is something that interests you. And she said, yeah. And I go, okay, let me tell you my situation. So I told her about the situation my dad was in. Now, he had beer and pop warehouse. He was going on 40 years of it, 70, and wanted to retire. And I go, this is his situation. This is your situation. I feel like, God kind of put me in the middle here right at this point. And I threw it to her, and that was a noon lunch. And I think she called me. I go, think about it. Talk to your husband. She called me at 7 o'clock that night and said, we're in.
That is so cool.
You had I think by the next day we had a verbal on an amount and an agreement and time. Like, we had it. So it's just, one of those things you wake up in the morning, you don't know what's going to happen. And that was one of them.
Is your dad doing all right?
Yeah, he's good. Treatment's been good. Both my parents are going through it, actually. So it's been, it was the best thing. Didn't have an intention on getting out, prior to 20 years, but it was one of those things. It was good for my father, my family. It was good for Jessica because she wanted to get to where we were at, and it just worked out. It just worked out great. Yeah.
Dude, 20 years in the game. That game, and with a pandemic in the middle of it.
Yeah.
I mean, you earned your stripes. Oh. And the institution continues to thrive in downtown. And adding additional angles. The pop-up.
Oh, Lord.
That thing was pumping.
Christmas
people.
pop-up. Yeah. Yeah, no.
Wow. And I know that was, they were the supporter of it. And it was other locals who put it together.
Yep.
But talk about measuring the market the right way and doing something. That was cool. It was cool.
It was a calculated risk. It's super cool. And all the credit in the world. I'm biggest fan of taking the risk, biggest fan that they executed it, and the community accepted it.
Super
so it was great.
Cool.
Yep.
All right, my gimmick, right? Mm-hmm. All right, are you afraid to answer questions? I figured, let's finish on a high note. Do you play cards? I ask everyone this. Did you play cards growing up?
A little bit, not much.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't sit still.
What?
I can't sit still.
Well, then that's why you run a restaurant in a brewery out of nowhere when you don't have any. So I'm just going to give you deal us each a hand. Flip them up one at a time, and then I got a bonus question. No, one at a time, and then I'll fire the questions at you. Okay, so we're going toe-to-toe here. I think I'm 2-0. I don't know. 2-0 playing. All right, you got a 4 clubs. Hold on.
All right.
I got to go to my trusty sheet, which I'm gonna pepper these up a little bit, but you got to let's see if this was 4 of clubs. Oh, this is wild that this came up, and I did shuffle them. Do you have a bucket list destination for your travel that you think would be unique? In other words, somebody could say Hawaii, Tahiti. Yeah. Those aren't that surprising. Is there anything on your bucket list that you're like, most people wouldn't get, I want to go X?
Yeah. No, I hear a lot of people say they want to go on this one, and I have people in my circle that have gone. I'm not a beach guy at all. And everybody's like, "Where do you want to go?" We've gone on cruises. I'm like, I want to go to Alaska. I want to spend some time in Alaska. I'm fascinated with it, and between just nature, the marine life, all that stuff. Like, that's one. And I know people bring that up, and it's funny because I'll talk to someone. I always want to do that, and people are like, why the hell would you want to go to Alaska and spend time there? But yeah,
frontier.
That's one. That's just one that I would love to.
That's raw nature.
Yeah.
One of mine's the Himalayas.
Yes, that'd be great.
The Himalayas, and everybody's like, I have no interest in, climbing. Would I hike up to base camp at Everest? Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, as long as it was, I'd train. But I just like to be in the presence of those. I'd love to see Everest in person. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agree.
That's not sexy.
Agree.
All right, fire it up. Let's see. Ooh, 2 of hearts. This is a bizarre one. If you had to fight one historical figure,
oh man,
who would you choose and why?
Man, that's a brutal one, man.
I'd always pick somebody I could beat.
Yeah, right. And is that part of it?
Napoleon to be going at it.
Yeah, I thought about that. An easy one would be like, someone that a murderer or someone that did change the thing in history. Man,
it's like fight sounds like too involved. Like just one quick pop to the face.
Oh man, the resistance, the prohibition resistance, and I forget her name because I did a talk on it not that long ago. There was a woman.
She was like secretary of something with. I just listened to a podcast about this.
Anyway, she had a nickname, and she went around. She led. The temperance movement.
The temperance movement.
And it was just a nasty little lady, and and it wasn't so much the alcohol, what that did to our country. And that's an hour when you got it sometime. But what that did and set our country back, and the black markets and the just the laundering, the hustling, the mob, basically that whole thing built Las Vegas. And just a lot of crime and bad things came out of that for our economy and our country. So that woman, every time I read about her, I can't believe I forgot her name, Jack.
Were you thinking of Frances Willard? That was one.
She was one.
But there was somebody in there.
I can see her now because I looked a picture up of her, and the scowl, and she was just a
yeah.
It
was very religiously driven. There's a podcast by Ed Helms.
Yeah.
From The Office.
Yeah, sure.
It's called Snafu, and they do multi-part kind of a documentary series.
Yeah.
Watch that if anyone's listening. Watch that and learn about how the booze kept flowing. The wealthy got the real stuff, but the poor got stuff that was cut, and it was killing people. Killing people or
making them blind.
Yep.
Blind drunk.
Yes. Yeah. And it was known.
Yeah.
And they allowed it to keep going on. And so that way, but it was a huge political thing because they wanted to get the votes of predominantly the temperance movement was led by women who were irritated at their drunk husbands, which
I get it.
And Christian.
That's my wife.
Yeah. All right. We got a 2-4 for Chris and an 8-7 for me. Go ahead. I'll catch up here. Go ahead. You flip. I'll get your question. Ooh, 7 of diamonds. I'm going to give you another one. Let's see here. The reason I'm not doing that is because that was the same question. I don't know how this is happening. Is there a person who's had this is the 5 of diamonds instead. Is there a person who's had an outsized influence on who you are today?
Oh, it's definitely the easy ones. My parents, they everything. My mom more so on the spiritual and the family side. My dad has just been, really been the guy, the mentor, the coach, business partner, and everything, along the way. So those are the easy ones of the day to day. No, but I'll throw one we mentioned out there as far as like a guy that's just been with me the last 20 years is Jim Berlin. Like what I learned, how savvy and calculated my father was on the business end. He is just, I've never met anybody who thinks outside the box.
Oh yeah.
And risk and unconventional. And you always say like, some of the most brilliant people are the craziest. That guy is just full of ideas. And, you know, the most important thing I learned from that guy, especially in the business side of things, he said, man, I go, Jim, how do you do this? Like, I don't understand. How are you in 55 countries? How do you have hundreds of employees? How do you do all this? He's like, ultimately said, make sure you're not the smartest one in the room. He's like, there are people that know how to do it, that want to do it, that want to be a part of something. Find them. And you know, I learned that early on, man. Like, don't be the smartest one in the room. You're in the wrong room.
When whenever Jim brings up, Jim will get an idea in his head and he doesn't let it go.
God.
He doesn't let it go. I mean, he wants, you know, you could even if you show him like legitimate reasons why something can't happen, he'll be like, well, let's start changing that reason then.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
he's been an incredible asset to the community in a lot of different ways.
The other great one about him I love, you can't do that. He's like, we'll ask for forgiveness.
Oh yeah.
And that building, that business in the development, it wouldn't happen if he wouldn't have asked for some forgiveness along
Jim's
the way.
a problem solver and doesn't like to hear, you know, we can't do that. And he's basically built his entire business solving people's logistical goods movement problems by saying, no, we can get that done. Like, it's like the challenge of it. And he has employees that are hired that have that same passion. Like, no, we can figure this out. We can solve it. And people don't realize they're going to be moving in. He's going to become $1 billion business. He has done work for the biggest dogs in the game. You know, he's done it for Google. He's done it for WeWork. He's done it for all of them. So I think people have a tendency to think, oh, we have this really cool logistics company. No, we have one of the best. Logistics Plus is known throughout this country, around the globe, as, you know, they have that reputation. Like, they'll get your stuff there. Oh. They did it during the pandemic, some amazing stuff.
Yeah.
So before I go off of but not to dismiss the influence of your parents, do you have siblings?
Yeah, I have a sister. Yeah.
Okay. Older or younger?
Younger. She's a mechanical engineer in Louisville.
Wow. So you're the wild child, oldest kid who decided to, like, at 21, you're like, let's go I really want to open a brew pub. And she's like, no, they had enough of that. They're like, why don't you become an engineer?
Yeah, exactly.
That's cool. All right, flip her up.
Yeah.
Ooh, we got a little battle going here. You got a king there, king of spades. All right, so you've talked a lot about this, but what's a challenge you faced that taught you something important about yourself? I mean, you've faced a ton of challenges, but
so COVID was probably the one, because, man, I early on that thing hit, and you know I was kind of falling a little bit, the world news leading up to. And, you know, we talked about it here, and like, hey, it's not going to come. It's not going to affect us. It's not going to shut us down. And the closer you got to St. Patrick's Day, 2020, you saw it. And there was a scare and the fear, and then it gets here. And there's no way a business makes it two weeks or 2 months without a lot of help.
Well, and not just, I want you to continue, because I want to hear what you learned from that. But, we all lived through that, but I know enough people in the industry. And I know how important St. Patrick's Day is, especially in Erie, to your bottom line for the year.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, everyone thinks like it's not just a good day. It is one of the epic days of the year for a restaurant and bar. And so you were staring at it, and you're saying, like, maybe the wave won't crash until after St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, we were hoping. We were hoping. I could do an hour on it, but we had our product in. I mean, $10,000 in perishables just rolled in the door. We're cutting and everything, you know, and that was like Monday morning. And then, you know, we're told, you know, probably by Monday at 3:00, I think I had to call the staff in, and like they're shutting us down. So not only you take away the one, we had 2 days.
When was St. Patrick's Day?
That was Tuesday, the 17th of March, 2020.
Wait, Monday? They shut you down on Monday? Oh, because they're trying to keep the spread down.
Monday, 2 to 3 p.m. Right. Even we went out Saturday for parade day. Yeah. And it was a ghost town. It was a ghost. And I'm like, people are really...
They're biting. Yeah. They're biting into
and then
what they're hearing.
Monday, governor gave us the word. We sat with our staff about 3:00 in the afternoon and said, we're closed tomorrow. They let us do carry out. But it is hands down our biggest single day of the year. Today, Fat Tuesday, is the other one. So they were very close. Fat Tuesday was the end of. We got that in luckily, but those are like probably the only days in the first quarter you really make it. That's your nut. 2 days out of 90. So yeah, that came and we didn't know. I'm like, all right, well we'll figure out a way to get rid of tens of thousands of dollars of product that's gonna go bad. We basically specialed Rubens and Rachel's. Everything was cut, Jake. It was bad. It's bad enough just closing, but when you have all the perishables, like you're done.
Yeah, you're staring at money that you might as well be burning in front of your face.
So we did a good job. Luckily, we froze some of it. We froze, but we specialed it. The community rallied on the carryout, but not enough to pay for that place. So Jim stepped up. That was just a bad, not month, years and years bad that we paid the price that. So
what do you think it taught you about yourself?
Resilience, able to pivot quickly and daily, because you would get, and that's another thing, it seems in the distant past, but we would get daily updates from the health secretary and the mayor and the county executive and our governor that was just basically calling the shots for that extended amount of time. So I had a lot of anger in me because of what was going on. A lot of fear, like I'm going to lose my house. My wife was a hairstylist. She has a salon. She shut down. So two of us, and it's terrifying. Not to mention the health, what's going on out there. Did we overplay it? Did we underplay it? It taught me a lot about myself. And then basically there was, a lot of people like, oh, you can get a break being closed? I go, no, I worked harder than I ever did for 2 years because it was me. I laid off 40 plus people and kept four people that I go, if you guys want to get in it, we'll keep you on. We'll find a way to pay you. And we're going to run a restaurant, 2 shifts a day with 4 of us of carry out. So it was a lot, end up, doing prep and dishes at nighttime, delivering food, anything you could to pay the bills. So it was terrifying, but I learned a lot about myself, the people around me, the generosity of the community, all the things that we had lined up, never intending we'd ever need anything back. I say, man, the partnerships, the nonprofits, the softball teams, the churches, all the people that we worked with for going into that 15 years, that got us through. Like every one of those people, awesome. We were paid back 1 million times over through that. So that got us through, and the generosity of Jim Berlin too. But yeah, I learned a lot about myself, the people around me, the community, in the government. I'll stop it there. Yep.
Well, I mean, good things come back. You paid a lot of good energy out into the universe, through the years, supporting all those entities, and it comes back. And that, one of the things Erie did really step up.
They did.
For each other throughout that. Not everybody made it.
Yep.
It was, I think everybody has a little bit of, and I'm not trying to put down PTSD, but there's a trauma that we all went through.
Yes.
And for 2 years, there's 2 years of our lives that are basically erased. You start running into somebody, I'm like, oh, I haven't seen you. And, and you're like, no, you haven't seen me since 2019. I'm like, whoa.
Yep.
That's freaky.
True.
It's really, I forget about it. I blocked it out.
Yeah.
But it was a horrible time
in
so many ways.
It was a blur. But yeah, I will say this about our community. I always say we are the most frugal, but we're the most generous at the same time.
We really are. They always say that. They say that the most generous people are the people who are most charitable as a percentage are the people who have the least to give.
Yeah.
Right? But they'll step up and help.
Yep.
And that I see it all the time in Erie. We're heading into this last card. Mm-hmm. I got a king 8. You have a king 7. So you flip, and then we'll figure out who wins, and then we'll get to this last question. Ooh. Okay, you got a queen 6. I think I got you, but I got a pair of 5s. Look at there. But we got to get the 6 of spades question. What's something that everyone seems to love that you secretly think's overrated?
Oh, boy. AI. That is right now. Now, I know if you're an older listener, you probably think, I don't think it's overrated. But the stuff I see online, it's the future. It's inevitable. I think I'm going to pay a dear price for a lot of it. A lot of it scares me. But the stuff that goes on and use it. I feel like it's one of those things that someday, and we might be long gone, Jake, but at some point, like, I wish we could have undone this.
Oh, yeah.
I've read a lot, and that's one thing I'm dabbling in, trying to learn more. But it's one of those things that it's growing faster than we can comprehend. It's building itself and starting to reason and fix its own mistakes. And it's like a movie coming true and before your own eyes. And I'm like, man, I don't know, the jobs and the lives it's going to change, hopefully for the better with medicine. And there's things that it's going to be better, but there's something coming, and there's a lot of whistleblowers in the industry saying it's what we're seeing, you and I, today online, and what we're playing with is 2 years old. And the stuff that's advancing out there is, basically yesterday we had a flip phone and today we have an iPhone, and it's coming so fast. So I know when you talk to people that work for us, or there's people that love it, and they're like, this is making my life easier and better. And I see something bad on the horizon, but it's unfortunately it's layered and built on what's the foundation that's already there.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of undoing that right now. So anyway, that's me being Debbie Downer.
No, that's not being Debbie Downer. I think it's being very realistic. I will say this, going back, and I really don't want to, and we won't finish on the pandemic, but what I said about the pandemic to folks was any fault lines in the economy, meaning like the demand for manufacturing workers, which we knew it's been high for 15 years. The pandemic came along and took it to it fast-tracked us 5 to 7 years into the future.
Sure.
In a matter of months. So I really think that what AI is going to do is have this, so we can handle change and we can adapt to change if it's coming at us incrementally, and we're heeding it and we're watching it and we're adapting to it. The pandemic thrust everyone. There was two sides of it. It crushed a lot of businesses that maybe were teetering.
Sure.
And it just pushed them over the edge. And it equally created a stretch of time that was one of the most innovative, at least in the United States, of how do we stay alive in a business that will change businesses like the restaurant industry forever, right? I think takeout for restaurants was a small percentage of a very small percentage of their business. Some didn't even think about doing it, and now it's a piece of their business, right? So that's just a very rudimentary example,
1000%
but it changed, right? The hours in restaurants went down. They're like, okay, I've saved money because I'm not open until 2 a.m.
Right.
So there was innovation that was created to solve problems in the short term. So there were some positives. The AI thing is coming at us faster than anyone is prepared to deal with it. Correct. So it's kind of come to us, and people are like, "Oh, I've heard about that," and they aren't having. It's a tsunami coming at us. Now, the impacts to industry and business, are going to be significant. And if you can do things with your hands, you're going to be okay. If you, but there's certain professions that, historically you'd say are untouchable. Let's just start in the tech sector alone, the programmers. You just went to school for 4 years, maybe 6 years. You have a master's in, computer programming and computer engineering, whatever it might be. You get hired. My brother-in-law applied for a software engineer position. He's a project manager for a tech company in the Portland area. And he advertised for a software engineer position, and in 48 hours, he had 5,000 resumes. Where do you even begin?
Yeah.
That's scary. So it's going to, unfortunately, I think, really rock a lot of our worlds, and not for good.
I 100% agree.
It's inevitable.
No,
it's
100%
here.
agree. Yep.
We've let it out of the can.
No, I think the trades, we've talked to our kids about it. Like, don't be afraid if you want to go in the trades or work with your hands or whatever it is. But yeah, those things are writing code and correcting themselves faster than you can ever learn.
It is. All right, let's the flyer question that's not on this list, and I'm going to tune up my list because I want to make these questions more fun, more engaging. But as you said earlier, you and your wife once a month will hop in a car and go to a concert. Let's talk last 12 months. Any concert in particular that really knocked your socks off?
Oh man, so we I'll drop 3 on you.
I love it.
I'll drop 3 on you. One is two are in the same venue, Las Vegas. We went to see Sphere, which if you don't know is a high-tech globe.
Yeah,
all right,
I saw Dead and Company there.
Okay, awesome. We actually saw it last in May. We saw Kenny Chesney, and last month we saw Zach Brown. Both we've been there I think half a dozen times already.
To the Sphere?
Yes, we've gone a lot, man.
It's spectacular.
I have to tell you that I tell what's it like? I go, imagine the worst a band that you absolutely despise and that would never want to see or spend a dime on. It's going to be the coolest thing you've ever seen, and that's the equivalent because it's
my description is it's watching a concert on a roller coaster.
Yes,
it's
also
that
accurate.
Exciting because it's just. There was a part in the Dead and Company show where the camera was panning up, overlooking San Francisco,
yes.
And I physically was feeling myself getting pulled out of my chair, but I felt it inside.
Yes, it is. It's amazing visually. The sound. It's the coolest thing. The shows we've gone to. I'll sit there with my wife and I'm like, close your eyes. You don't know where the sound's coming from. It's coming from basically 360 degrees, including your seat, but it's crystal clear. The visuals, I think the highest resolution TV can buy is 7K. This thing's broadcast in 14K.
Yeah.
Wind, sound, vibrate. I mean, it is just so over the top. And the shows have been great. We saw The Wizard of Oz when we were out there too, which
was that really
spectacular.
Cool? Yeah.
But that's a Sphere that not everybody can go see in Pittsburgh or whatever. But if you get a chance and you love music or any kind of
if
production,
you're visiting Vegas, go see
go
see The Wizard of Oz. Go see they have like matinee shows.
Yep, matinee
well worth it.
Yep, unbelievable. And and then like in person, we're country people, but I will tell you, my daughter, who's a freshman in college, our bond is Taylor Swift.
Nice.
So we've been I think 6 shows over the years. We started when I think she was like 10 or 12. So that's like our thing. Now, for me, like production-wise, it's probably the most spectacular live production I've ever seen in music, and I love it because there's no line in the men's room. That's my joke. I walk right in. But as a dad taking my daughter, it is the fact that she built, her production, what she does. She's basically the revenue. And the economic impact of a strong, small country doing this and what she brings into the cities and she gives back to the cities and that she puts her own
But it's quality is what you're saying.
It is quality.
You're saying it's high quality.
Oh, my gosh. If you've never watched she's had a documentary out. Disney Plus did it. And it was the most fascinating thing to see, like from her, I don't know anybody that writes their own music, plays their own music, sings their own music. Part of the production and the build, the dance. I mean, it is just. I said, man, I told my daughter, if you need a role model, and that was part of it earlier on, this is the brilliant person. From branding, everything she does outside of music and the stage. But I'm just fascinated.
Treats her employees right.
Oh, the money. Oh, my gosh. Watch it. Do yourself a favor. You have Disney Plus. Watch it. And even if you don't like her music, you'll leave a fan like the world needs more of this human being.
I've heard that from at least a half dozen people.
Yep. So, yeah. And the tickets were way too much. That's another thing. And I'll leave it at this. She charges a fair amount of tickets. The black market, secondary market, that's the one that extorted all that. But still, for someone to perform and do a show like that for 3+ hours, and my daughter can admire and I can happily watch her admire, that's a pretty strong thing. So yeah.
Sure is.
Yeah.
Sure is.
Yeah. Well,
dude, it's been super fun.
Great time.
It's great talking to you. Great catching up. You're running Beer and Pop now, right?
Yeah, July 1st, purchased that.
A little different.
Oh, Lord, it's great. not the 9 to 5 thing and promising somewhere I can be somewhere at 5:30.
And everyone's happy when they're walking into Beer and Pop house.
It's
they're buying drinks for
no one returns a 30-pack. No one ever complains about a 30-pack.
They sure don't, you know.
It's good.
for everything you did in downtown Erie. Seriously, I mean, blood, sweat, tears, vision. You had partners, but every day you were the one answering the bell. Same with your wife, supporting you through that process.
She's all right.
And it's still kicking. And I know I had a lot of good times there, but more importantly, you employed a lot of people, and you've done great things for the community, and you will continue to do so. And I'm super happy that you're doing your new gig.
It's great.
And you're enjoying life.
And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks, everybody. Peace out.